His glass is already inches from his lips when she grabs his wrist. Don't drink that. Her fingers press into the sleeve of his tailored dark suit, knuckles whitening against fabric that feels too smooth, too expensive for her touch. The crystal catches the sun, throwing fractured light across his jaw, across the white linen tablecloth, across the skyline blazing behind him. The rooftop is bright. Midday light. No shadows deep enough to hide in. A violinist near the railing holds his bow in the air, frozen between notes. Conversations thin out into confused murmurs. Cutlery rests against porcelain with small, uncertain clicks. The wind lifts the edge of her black apron and carries the faint scent of citrus and grilled seafood across the terrace. Kong Min-jae does not spill a drop. He lowers his eyes first, to her hand, then to her face. She is young, black, a waitress in a pressed uniform that still carries the sharp scent of detergent. A name tag pinned slightly crooked. Her breath comes shallow and uneven, chest rising against the tight line of her collar. Behind him, two security guards in black suits stand near the bar rail. They have been leaning close together, whispering. One of them stops. Silence spreads outward like a crack under pressure. Let go, Min-jae says. His voice is not loud. It does not need to be. She doesn't release him. Her eyes flick past his shoulder, over his right arm, to the guards. Back to the glass hovering near his mouth. Back to him. Please. The word is low. Controlled. Not hysterical. Not begging. The rooftop manager is already moving toward them, face draining of color, lips forming apologies he hasn't yet spoken. Several guests shift in their seats, uncertain whether to watch or look away. One man subtly lifts his phone. Min-jae studies her the way he studies numbers, measuring volatility. You have 5 seconds, he says. The guards begin walking. Their shoes are soft against the wooden decking. Slow. Deliberate. They switched languages when you came out, she says quickly. Russian. A flicker crosses his expression. Small. Almost imperceptible. The wind pushes against the glass in his hand. The liquid inside trembles, surface rippling with the movement of air. They said it had to be now. The guards are closer. 10 steps away. 8. Min-jae lowers the glass. Not fully. Just enough. What exactly did they say? The nearest guard's jaw tightens. If she answers, she exposes herself. If she doesn't, he drinks. The manager reaches them. Sir, I'm so. Stop. Min-jae never looks at him. The manager freezes mid-breath. The city hums below, distant traffic, a helicopter somewhere far off, a siren that doesn't belong to them. Up here, everything feels suspended, bright and open and impossible to hide. She swallows. They said, she whispers, and this time she switches languages, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Once it's in his system, it won't look intentional. The words hang in the air. Russian syllables, precise, clean. The guards stop walking. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Min-jae extends the glass without breaking eye contact with her. A server, wide-eyed, steps forward and takes it with both hands. Clear the table, Min-jae says evenly. Chairs scrape. Executives rise with polite confusion, straightening jackets, pretending not to stare. The violinist lowers his bow. The skyline beyond the railing remains painfully bright, towers reflecting sunlight like polished blades. Her hand finally falls away from his wrist. A faint imprint remains in the fabric. You understand what you're doing, he says quietly. It is not a question. She nods once. Behind her, one of the guards shifts his weight. His gaze is no longer casual. It is sharp now. Calculating. Min-jae turns slightly, just enough to see them without appearing to look. Join us inside, he tells her. The manager opens his mouth again, closes it. As they move toward the glass doors, the rooftop feels different. Thinner. Exposed. Conversations resume in whispers that follow them like wind. Inside the private dining room, the light is harsher, boxed in by walls of glass. The city presses close. The table is long and set for a tasting that will no longer happen. Min-jae stands at the head. She remains near the door, hands clasped in front of her apron, shoulders tight. The two guards take position outside. You are accusing my security, he says. Her pulse beats visibly at her throat. I'm telling you what I heard. What time? 3 minutes before you walked out. He watches her without blinking. Repeat it. She does. The Russian again. Exact. Controlled. Outside the door, a shadow shifts across the frosted pane. Min-jae's gaze sharpens. He reaches beneath the table, presses something unseen. No sound. No signal anyone else can hear. But something changes in the air. A subtle shift. Like pressure building before a storm. You speak Russian fluently, he says. Yes. Why? A pause. My mother. Nothing more. He steps closer, stopping just short of her. Close enough that she can smell his cologne. Clean, restrained, expensive. Close enough that she feels the difference in height, in power, in consequence. If you are wrong, he says, this ends badly for you. The words are calm, not cruel. She nods again. Outside, footsteps move down the hallway. Quick, coordinated. He holds her gaze another second. Then, the drink will be tested. 7 words. They land like a verdict. If nothing is found, he continues, you will wish you had stayed silent. The silence that follows is heavier than before. Through the glass behind him, the skyline glitters. Unmoved. Indifferent. She knows something now that she cannot unknow. If she steps back, he might still drink another glass. Later. Somewhere else. If she is right, someone close to him wants him dead. If she is wrong, she has just attacked the wrong man in the wrong place. Min-jae turns toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. Bring the glass downstairs, he tells someone unseen. Now. The door opens. Closes. They are alone in the bright room. He does not look at her. But he says, quietly, understand this. If there is poison in that glass, someone inside my circle placed it there. A beat. And you just made yourself visible. Outside, one of the guards is no longer standing where he was. The test has begun. And if the results confirm what she claims, someone in this building is about to lose far more than a job. The door shuts with a soft, airtight seal. Min-jae remains facing the window. Below, the city moves in neat lines, cars gliding through intersections, pedestrians reduced to shifting dots. Up here, the air feels thinner, conditioned, filtered, almost sterile. Behind him, she stands exactly where he left her. The faint citrus scent from the rooftop clings to her uniform. Under it now, something metallic. Fear, rising through her skin. A vibration hums through the table. His phone. He doesn't reach for it immediately. The second vibration is longer. He turns. Not to the phone. To her. Who else heard them? He asks. No one, she says. You're certain? Yes. He studies her face as if searching for hesitation in the muscles around her eyes. There is none. Another vibration. He finally picks up the phone. He reads. Nothing shifts in his posture. But his jaw tightens once. They've locked down the service corridor, he says, almost to himself. One of them is no longer at his post. Her pulse spikes. She can hear it in her ears, like distant drums underwater. He left? She asks. Left, Min-jae repeats. Or moved. The difference matters. He sets the phone down carefully on the table, aligning it with the edge of the wood. Describe their tone. She blinks. Excuse me. When they spoke Russian. Describe it. Her mouth goes dry. Calm, she says. Routine. He waits. Not rushed, she adds. Not angry. Like they'd done it before. Silence settles in the space between them. Outside the glass, a cloud passes briefly over the sun. The light in the room dims by a fraction. The temperature feels cooler. He walks to the head of the table again, fingers brushing the back of a leather chair. Smooth. Controlled. They would not act without assurance, he says. She doesn't know if he's speaking to her. Assurance of what? She asks anyway. That it would succeed. The words land quietly. He presses a small button on his watch. A soft click answers somewhere in the ceiling. Footsteps approach in the corridor, measured, professional. Not hurried. The door opens. 2 men enter. Different from the rooftop guards. Dark suits. Earpieces. Eyes that assess the room before they acknowledge the people in it. They nod once to Min-jae. He gestures toward her without looking back. She is under observation, he says. No contact. No statements. The words wrap around her like a tightening cord. Observation. Not protection. One of the men moves to stand near the wall behind her. Not touching. Close enough that she feels his presence at her shoulder. The other steps forward. Sir, he says quietly. We've reviewed preliminary camera feeds. The glass was poured from a bottle opened tableside. By a junior server. Her stomach drops. Name, Min-jae says. The man glances at a small tablet. Daniel Okoye. The room shifts. The name is familiar. Too familiar. She sees Daniel in her mind, laughing in the service hallway earlier, adjusting his tie in the reflection of a stainless steel fridge. He had carried the tray that held the bottle. Her throat tightens. He's still on site. Min-jae asks. For now. The operative's eyes flick briefly toward her. Min-jae notices. Speak, he says. She requested the bottle substitution, the man adds carefully. The air leaves her lungs. I did not, she starts. You asked for a fresh bottle. The man continues, voice level. Camera shows you intercepting the original. Her skin goes cold. She remembers. The first bottle had a loose seal. She had noticed it while polishing glasses. She had mentioned it to Daniel. He had shrugged. She insisted. It was standard protocol. It was unsealed, she says, forcing steadiness into her voice. That's policy. The operative's gaze remains neutral. Min-jae's eyes never leave her face. You intervened, he says. Yes. And then you overheard my security. Yes. The sequence hangs between them. Bottle changed. Security whispering. Warning issued. A line that can be interpreted two ways. Her palms are damp against the fabric of her apron. I didn't poison you, she says quietly. I didn't say you did. His tone is even. That is worse. The phone vibrates again. This time he answers. He doesn't put it on speaker. He listens. The room is so quiet, she can hear the faint static from the other end. His expression doesn't change. Understood, he says and ends the call. He sets the phone down with more force than before. There is a compound in the glass, he says. The words are flat. Final. Her knees weaken slightly. 40 minutes. That's what they said. How long, he asks the operative. Estimated onset between 30 and 50 minutes. Min-jae checks his watch. 17 minutes have passed since the rooftop. 17. If he had taken a full sip. The thought lodges in her chest. The operative continues. We are tracing the bottle's origin. The supplier confirms no contamination at source. Which means it happens here. Inside. Min-jae turns slowly toward her. The weight of his gaze is different now. Not suspicion. Calculation. Daniel Okoye, he repeats. She swallows. He wouldn't, she says before she can stop herself. You are certain. She hesitates. A silence beat. Daniel's laugh in the hallway. The way he avoided her eyes when the guards started walking. The slight tremor in his hands when he handed over the tray. I don't know, she admits. The honesty hangs raw in the air. Min-jae nods once, almost imperceptibly. Bring him, he says. The operatives move immediately. The door opens. Closes. The room shrinks again to the two of them. Outside, through the glass, she notices movement on the rooftop. Guests being escorted out. Staff clustered near the stairwell. Confusion contained but spreading. Min-jae steps closer to her. From this point forward, he says, every action you have taken will be examined. His voice is calm. If you are involved, even indirectly, this becomes simpler. Her chest tightens. And if I'm not? She asks. He holds her gaze. Then you have just saved my life. The weight of that possibility settles over her shoulders. Saved his life. Or orchestrated his near death. Footsteps return in the hallway. Slower this time. Uneven. A muffled protest. Her breath catches. The handle turns. And Daniel is pushed into the room, eyes wide, tie loosened, fear already blooming across his face as he sees her standing beside Kong Min-jae. Daniel stumbles forward, catching himself on the edge of the table. His eyes dart from Min-jae to her, then to the two operatives flanking the door. Sweat darkens the collar of his white shirt. The citrus polish from the dining room mixes with the sharp scent of fear. I didn't do anything, he says immediately. No one has accused him yet. Min-jae doesn't move. Close the door, he says. The latch clicks shut. The sound is small. Final. Daniel looks at her again. There is something in his stare. Confusion, yes. But also accusation. You told them? He asks her under his breath. She doesn't answer. Min-jae steps forward, measured, hands clasped behind his back. The bottle, he says calmly. Walk me through it. Daniel swallows. It came up from storage. Standard supplier. I opened it tableside. Who handled it before you? No one. The lie lands too quickly. One of the operatives shifts his weight. The faint hum of the air system fills the silence. Min-jae tilts his head slightly. Think carefully. Daniel's fingers twitch at his sides. I stepped away for a minute. The manager called me to the bar. How long? Maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Enough. Her stomach tightens. Who stood nearest the tray? Min-jae asks. Daniel hesitates. His eyes flick toward the door, toward the hallway beyond. Security, he says quietly. The word settles heavily. Min-jae doesn't react outwardly, but the temperature in the room seems to drop. Names. Daniel shakes his head. I don't know them personally. You see them every day? They rotate. Min-jae's jaw tightens. The operative's phone vibrates. He glances at it, then looks to Min-jae. Sir. Min-jae nods once. Preliminary lab confirms, the operative says. Compound is synthetic. Not commercially available. Requires specific sourcing. Not an accident. Not kitchen contamination. Intent. Daniel's breathing becomes shallow. I swear I didn't. Quiet, Min-jae says softly. The word slices clean. 17 minutes since the rooftop becomes 23. Time continues, indifferent. Min-jae walks to the window again, staring down at the shrinking crowd outside as rooftop guests are escorted toward the elevators. Staff cluster in tight knots, whispering. He speaks without turning. Lock down all exits. They are locked, the operative replies. Except one. Min-jae's head shifts slightly. Loading dock camera shows guard Petrov leaving the lower level 3 minutes ago. He removed his earpiece before exiting frame. Petrov. The name lands like a dropped weight. Her throat tightens. Petrov is the taller one. The one whose jaw flexed when she spoke Russian. He's in custody? Min-jae asks. No, sir. A pause. He exited through the service garage before full seal was activated. The silence that follows is heavier than any raised voice. And the other? Min-jae asks. In holding downstairs. So one is caught. One is gone. Daniel looks between them, panic widening his eyes. This isn't about me, he says, voice cracking. I didn't know anything about. Min-jae turns slowly. It is about everyone, he says. He steps closer to Daniel until they are only inches apart. Daniel shrinks slightly without realizing it. You were absent from your tray for 30 seconds. Min-jae continues. In those 30 seconds, my drink becomes lethal. Daniel shakes his head rapidly. I didn't see them touch it. But you left it. Daniel's silence answers. The operative's phone vibrates again. He reads. His expression tightens. Sir, Petrov's access badge was used at the rear stairwell. He changed jackets in the garage. We're pulling traffic cams now. Min-jae's eyes narrow slightly. How long since he exited frame? 11 minutes. 11 minutes inside a city this size. She feels it then, not relief, not validation. Exposure. Petrov heard her speak Russian. He saw her face clearly on the rooftop, sunlight cutting across her features as she grabbed Min-jae's wrist. He knows who interrupted the plan. Min-jae seems to reach the same conclusion at the same moment. His gaze shifts to her. Describe him, he says. You know what he looks like. I want to hear how closely you were watching. Her breath catches. Tall, she says slowly. Early 40s. Scar near his left eyebrow. Accent from St. Petersburg. Daniel looks at her, startled. You talked to him before, he asks. No. Min-jae studies her carefully. You're certain about the accent? Yes. A silence beat. He nods once. To intercept me, he says quietly, means he believed the aftermath could be controlled. Daniel's knees nearly buckle. I don't want any part of this, he whispers. Min-jae ignores him. To poison me publicly, he continues, requires confidence in internal fractures. Internal, not external enemies. Someone close enough to adjust rotations. To influence guard assignments. The betrayal is not at the gate. It is inside. The operative speaks again. Sir, we've confirmed. Petrov's vehicle remains in the garage. Min-jae turns sharply. He left on foot? Yes. The air feels thinner now. He removed his badge, discarded it in a trash chute. We have visual confirmation. Min-jae checks his watch. 31 minutes since the rooftop. If he had taken a full drink, symptoms would be starting soon. He looks at her again. He heard you, he says. It is not a question. She nods. Yes. Then he knows you understood him. Her fingers curl into her palms. Outside, sirens wail faintly somewhere far below. Not for them. Not yet. The operative lowers his phone slowly. There's more, he says. Min-jae waits. City cameras show Petrov exiting onto Sejong Avenue. He blends into pedestrian traffic. We lose him 2 blocks down. The words hang. Lost in the city. Not contained in the building. Not cornered. Free. Daniel exhales shakily, as if hoping this absolves him. It does not. Min-jae's voice is calm again when he speaks. Seal external networks. Alert our partners. Yes, sir. The operatives move quickly. She remains where she stands, heart pounding. Petrov is out there. Alive. Aware. And the last clear image he has before disappearing into the city is her face in the sunlight, saying the words that ruined everything. Daniel is dragged out first. His shoes scrape against the polished floor. His voice fractures down the hallway, then disappears behind a reinforced door at the far end of the corridor. She remains inside the private dining room. The air feels thinner now that Petrov is gone. Min-jae gestures once. Bring the other. The operative nods. Moments later, the second guard is escorted in, hands bound in front, jacket removed, white shirt wrinkled at the collar. A bruise is already forming along his cheekbone. He keeps his chin lifted despite it. He sees her. Recognition flickers. Then something colder. They position him at the far end of the table. Two operatives stand behind him, silent and immovable. Min-jae does not sit. He circles once, slow, measured, the faint scent of his cologne cutting through the room's recycled air. You were assigned to rooftop detail today, Min-jae says. Yes, the guard replies evenly. Rotation was changed this morning. A pause. Yes. By whom? Silence. The hum of the ceiling vent grows louder in the absence of speech. She watches the guard's breathing, steady, controlled. His eyes do not wander. Not yet. Min-jae stops across from him. You spoke Russian, he says. The guard's gaze sharpens. I speak several languages, he replies. On the rooftop, Min-jae continues. You chose Russian. The guard doesn't answer. Min-jae's eyes flick toward her. The look is brief. Intentional. Repeat what you heard, he tells her. Her throat tightens. The guard turns his head slightly, just enough to see her from the corner of his eye. The room feels smaller. She inhales. The words come out clean. The same cadence. The same measured calm. Once it's in his system, it won't look intentional. The guard's jaw tightens, almost imperceptibly. That tone. It hits her again. Not the words this time, but the rhythm beneath them. Controlled. Clinical. Like discussing paperwork. A corridor flickers in her mind. White tile. Harsh fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic and stale coffee. Two men speaking Russian outside a hospital room. Their voices low. Detached. As if discussing weather. Her father's breathing behind a thin curtain. The beeping of a heart monitor. She blinks. The private dining room snaps back into focus. Min-jae is watching her now, not the guard. You recognized it, he says quietly. She doesn't answer immediately. The silence stretches. Yes, she says at last. The guard shifts in his chair. Min-jae's gaze returns to him. You were confident, he says. Confident enough to speak freely within 10 feet of a public table. The guard's lip curls faintly. No one here understands Russian. Min-jae glances at her again. Except her. The guard looks at her fully now. There is no panic in his eyes. Only calculation. The fluorescent memory presses harder. Another flash. A courtroom. Wood benches. Whispered translations in her ear. Her mother's hand gripping hers too tightly. Russian voices filling the space with soft, controlled explanations. Accidents. Miscommunications. Unfortunate circumstances. Her father never testifies. Silence becomes strategy. She swallows. Min-jae steps closer to her, lowering his voice. Why Russian, he asks. My mother, she says again. That is not an answer. A beat. She raised me in it. For what purpose? The question lands heavier than the others. She feels the guard watching her, measuring how much she will say. Another flash. Kitchen light at midnight. Her mother whispering, never translate everything. Some words are not meant to survive. She steadies herself. It was the language in our house, she says carefully. Min-jae studies her face for cracks. You heard something familiar, he says. Yes. Not just words. She hesitates. The guard's breathing slows, as if he's waiting for her to overstep. No, she admits. Not just words. Min-jae's eyes narrow slightly. The air between them changes. This is no longer only about a poisoned drink. This is not the first time you've heard men speak that way, he says. It is not framed as a question. Her chest tightens. She doesn't look at the guard. No, she says. The guard's fingers flex against the restraints. Min-jae turns back to him. Who adjusted your rotation? He repeats. The guard remains silent. One of the operatives leans closer, murmuring something low and precise into his ear. The guard exhales through his nose. Still nothing. Min-jae does not raise his voice. Instead, he turns away from the table and walks back toward the window, the city stretching wide beneath him. He speaks without facing either of them. Petrov is running, he says. You are not. The guard's composure flickers for the first time. Just slightly. Min-jae looks over his shoulder at her. Is this random? He asks quietly. The question hangs in the bright, sealed room. Random poisoning. Random guard. Random language. She feels the hospital corridor again. The courtroom bench. The tone that always comes before something irreversible. Her answer sits heavy in her mouth. And she hesitates. The question lingers in the air. Is this random? She feels the guard's eyes on her. Feels Min-jae waiting, not impatient, measuring. No, she says finally. The word is quiet. But it lands. The room does not react. No one gasps. No one moves. Min-jae turns fully toward her now. Explain. The guard watches her carefully, the bruise on his cheek darkening by the minute. She inhales slowly. The recycled air tastes dry. My mother immigrated from Russia when she was 19, she says. She never stopped listening to the news from back home. Never stopped translating things under her breath. Min-jae says nothing. She keeps her eyes forward, not on the guard. My father worked logistics. Shipping. Storage. He thought it was legitimate. A small pause. It wasn't. The word sits between them. The hum of the ceiling vent fills the space where judgment might have been. As a child, she continues, I heard men speaking Russian in our kitchen. Calm. Precise. Discussing numbers. Deliveries. Delays. Her hands tighten together at her waist. They used the same tone he used. She nods toward the restrained guard. When he said it wouldn't look intentional. The guard's jaw hardens. Min-jae's face remains composed. They weren't shouting, she says. They weren't angry. That's how I knew it was serious. She swallows. One night, I heard them say someone was going to make an example of a partner who became inconvenient. The word echoes softly in the room. I told my father what I heard. Her voice lowers. He told me not to repeat it, not to translate everything. He said I misunderstood. A silence beat. The city glints outside the glass. Cars move in obedient lines. 2 days later, she says, one of his business partners died in what they called a construction accident. The guard shifts in his chair. Min-jae's gaze sharpens, almost imperceptibly. You believe the men in your kitchen were connected, he says. I know they were. How? She hesitates. Her pulse rises. I heard the same name in court months later. Courtroom benches. Whispered Russian behind closed doors. Her mother gripping her hand, so tight her fingers ached. Nothing could be proven, she continues. Everyone called it coincidence. She looks at Min-jae now. I stayed quiet after that. The admission feels heavier than the rest. My father was questioned. His business collapsed. But he wasn't charged. We survived. She presses her lips together. Someone else didn't. The room holds still. The restrained guard studies her with something that is no longer just calculation. There is recognition there. Min-jae steps closer. And today, he asks quietly. Today I didn't stay quiet. The words are steady. A faint muscle moves along Min-jae's jaw. When did you first recognize him? He asks, without looking at the guard. Her breath catches. She knew this was coming. 3 weeks ago, she says. The guard's eyes flicker. I saw him in the service hallway during a private event, she continues. He was speaking Russian on the phone. Same cadence. And you said nothing. I wasn't sure. You are sure now. Yes. Min-jae studies her face carefully. You applied for this job recently, he says. Yes. After recognizing him? A pause. Yes. The truth hangs there. Intentional proximity. She feels the weight of it. I wanted to know if it was coincidence, she says. If the tone was just in my head. The guard lets out a faint, humorless breath. Min-jae turns to him sharply. You find this amusing? The guard remains silent. Min-jae looks back at her. You chose proximity to a man you believed might be connected to a criminal network. Yes. You understood the risk. Yes. And you did not inform anyone in authority. Her throat tightens. I've informed authority before, she says softly. It didn't matter. The silence that follows is long. Min-jae walks slowly toward the window again. Outside, the rooftop is nearly empty now. Staff are escorted downstairs in controlled clusters. The skyline burns bright and indifferent. This was not a random poisoning, he says quietly. No. You believe it is connected to the same network that destroyed your father's business. She nods once. I don't know how large it is, she says. But I know the sound of men who think they won't be caught. The guard's breathing has changed. Slightly faster now. Min-jae notices. Who adjusted your rotation? He repeats, turning to the restrained man. Still silence. Min-jae's eyes narrow. To orchestrate this, he says calmly, requires internal access. Scheduling authority. Confidence and containment. He looks at her again. You did not come here by accident. No. You were watching. Yes. And you intended to confront him eventually. Her fingers curl. I intended to listen, she says. Min-jae studies her for a long moment. You are not as random as you appeared, he says. No. Another silence beat. The operative's phone vibrates again. He reads. His expression shifts. Sir, he says carefully. We've traced Petrov's previous assignments. He requested rooftop rotations only on days when you host external investors. Min-jae's gaze sharpens. Pattern. Yes, sir. How many occurrences? For in the last 2 months. The air in the room tightens. For opportunities. For near misses. Min-jae turns slowly toward her. This is not a one-day betrayal, he says. The words are calm. But beneath them is something colder. It is a move. The restrained guard looks away for the first time. Min-jae's voice lowers. And if it is a move against me? He does not finish the sentence. Outside, somewhere in the city, Petrov is still walking. Inside this building, someone with authority has been adjusting schedules. And she stands in the center of it. No longer a waitress who overheard something by chance, but a witness who stepped deliberately into proximity. Min-jae's eyes rest on her. This, he says quietly, is larger than you think. The weight of that truth settles in the room. And for the first time, she wonders whether the tone she recognized was not just familiar, but part of something still unfolding. The room holds the weight of it. Larger than you think. Min-jae turns from the window slowly, the skyline reflecting in the glass behind him like fractured steel. Leave us, he says to the operatives. They hesitate only a fraction of a second. The restrained guard is pulled to his feet and guided toward the adjoining room. The door shuts with a muted thud. The hum of the ventilation returns, steady and impersonal. Now it is just the two of them in the bright private dining room. Her black apron is still tied tight at her waist. A faint stain of spilled water darkens the edge of it from the rooftop chaos. His suit remains immaculate. Two different worlds standing in the same square of light. Min-jae walks back to the table and rests his fingertips against the polished wood. If I contain this, he says calmly, no one outside this building knows. His voice is measured. Strategic. The guards disappear. The rotation schedule is corrected. Investors proceed as planned. Phones vibrate faintly in his jacket pocket, then stop. If I do not contain it, he continues, this becomes visible. Visible invites response. She watches him carefully. From who, she asks. He doesn't answer directly. Public exposure signals weakness, he says instead. Weakness attracts predators. Her throat tightens. And silence, she asks quietly. Silence preserves leverage. A pause. She steps closer, the soles of her shoes whispering against the floor. Silence preserves them, she says. His eyes lift to hers. Bury it, she continues, voice steady but low. And whoever paid them tries again. Maybe not with poison. Maybe with something cleaner. He studies her face. You assume repetition. I assume intent. Another silence beat. Outside the glass, the rooftop has cleared completely now. Tables stripped. Chairs stacked. The scene reset as if nothing almost happened. Min-jae's phone vibrates again. This time he answers. Yes. He listens. His expression shifts slightly, controlled irritation. Delay the statement, he says. Tell them there is a technical issue. A pause. No further comment. He ends the call. Investors, he says. Her stomach tightens. They expect certainty, he adds. And you can't give it to them, she says. He does not respond, but his jaw tightens. Another vibration. Another call. This time he ignores it. From the adjoining room comes a faint sound. A chair scraping. A muffled voice. Min-jae glances toward the door. They're pressing him, he says. Her pulse quickens. You're deciding whether to protect your image, she says carefully, or your life. His gaze sharpens. You think I cannot do both. I think someone inside your structure believes you can't. The words hang heavy. He steps closer to her. You are very certain for someone who has been inside this building for 3 weeks. Her chest rises and falls steadily. I'm certain about tone, she says. Men who speak like that don't test once. They test until it works. The door to the adjoining room opens abruptly. One of the operatives steps in, face tight. Sir. Min-jae turns. He's talking. The air shifts instantly. About what? Min-jae asks. Payment. A pause. From an external account. Routed through shell companies. Traced preliminary to a rival syndicate operating through Vladivostok. The name settles like ice. Not random. Not personal revenge. Strategic. Min-jae's eyes darken slightly. Does he name who inside adjusted rotation? He asks. Not yet. But he confirms coordination? Yes. The operative swallows once. He says the instruction was clear. Public setting. Natural cause. Her skin prickles. Min-jae stands very still. And Petrov, he asks. No contact. He has not used digital channels. Of course he hasn't. The operative continues. Our internal team is divided, sir. Some advise immediate internal purge. Quiet removals. Others suggest making this public to destabilize the rival network. War or silence. The words do not need to be spoken aloud. Min-jae dismisses the operative with a nod. The door closes again. The hum of the room returns. He exhales slowly. If I purge quietly, he says, almost to himself, I preserve market stability. Investors remain confident. The rival network believes the attempt failed by chance. And they try again, she says. He looks at her sharply. If I escalate publicly, he continues, ignoring her interruption, I invite open retaliation. Markets react. Partners reconsider. And you send a message, she counters, that you're not blind. His eyes lock onto hers. The distance between them is no longer formal. It is confrontational. You push hard, he says. You almost died. The words land flat and undeniable. Another silence beat. He studies her face. No tremor now, no hesitation. You understand, he says quietly. If I escalate, this does not remain contained to security rotations and poison glasses. She holds his gaze. It spreads. Yes. Good, she says softly. The word surprises even her. He tilts his head slightly. Good, he repeats. Because it's already spread, she says. You just saw the pattern. 4 rooftop rotations. Multiple opportunities. Investors present. Visible vulnerability. He steps back slightly, reassessing. From the adjoining room comes a sharper sound, metal striking floor. A raised voice. Then a thud. She flinches instinctively. Min-jae does not. He also confirmed, the operative's voice calls faintly through the door, that the payment included a bonus for neutralizing an unplanned variable. The words hit her like cold water. Unplanned variable. Min-jae's eyes shift to her slowly. You, he says. The room feels smaller. If Petrov escaped, he carries that instruction with him. Neutralize the variable. Min-jae studies her for a long moment. Then he asks, voice calm but edged with steel. If I escalate this, you become a target. A beat. Do you accept that? Do you accept that? The question doesn't echo. It settles. She feels it in her spine, in the back of her throat, in the thin space between fear and resolve. Yes, she says. The word is steady. Min-jae holds her gaze a second longer, measuring whether she understands what she has agreed to. A sharp knock interrupts the silence. The door opens before permission is given. The same operative steps in, breathing slightly harder now. Sir. External cameras picked him up again. Petrov. Location, Min-jae says. Rear service alley. He doubled back. Her stomach drops. He left the perimeter, the operative continues, but circled through pedestrian traffic. He's approaching the south loading entrance. Min-jae's eyes shift, fast, precise calculation. He's coming back, she says quietly. The operative nods once. Looks that way. Min-jae turns to her. You were right. Not praise. Confirmation. He won't run, she says. Not yet. Why? Because I heard him. The room tightens around that truth. He knows I understood, she continues. If I'm alive, the story isn't clean. The operative's phone vibrates again. South entrance breach attempt, he says quickly. He used a stolen vendor badge. Denied access. Min-jae steps toward the door. Clear remaining staff, he orders. Lock vertical movement. No elevators. The operative nods and disappears. Min-jae turns back to her. You're coming with me. Not a question. They move into the corridor. The lighting is cooler here. Fluorescent. Less forgiving. The faint scent of cleaning solution lingers in the air. Two operatives flank them immediately. The building feels different now. Less corporate. More tactical. Doors shut in sequence down the hallway. Security locks click into place. Her shoes echo softly against the polished floor. Where are we going? She asks. Secure floor, Min-jae says. Another operative jogs toward them from the stairwell. He accessed the interior stairwell at level 2, the man reports. Camera caught partial profile. Armed, Min-jae asks. Unknown. Her heartbeat quickens. He'll check lower levels first, she says. Min-jae glances at her while still walking. He'll assume you're being moved, she continues. He won't expect you to stay high. Min-jae slows slightly. You think like him, he says. I listen like him. They reach a junction in the corridor. To the left, elevators, dark, inactive. To the right, a heavy door leading to emergency stairs. An operative's voice crackles through an earpiece. Sir, object recovered on level 2 stairwell landing. What object? Handgun. The word cuts through the hallway like a blade. Her breath catches. Min-jae's expression doesn't change. Loaded, he asks. Yes, sir. The hallway grows very quiet. No distant office chatter. No elevator hum. Just controlled breathing and the faint buzz of overhead lights. He's escalating, she says softly. He already did, Min-jae replies. Another voiceover comms. Movement detected between levels 3 and 4. Thermal signature confirmed. They are on level 6. Min-jae turns to the operative nearest him. Seal floors 5 and 7. Already in process. Her hands feel colder now. This is no longer strategic debate. This is physical. He's not trying to escape, she says. Min-jae looks at her directly. No. He's trying to finish it. A silence beat. Min-jae gestures forward. They move toward a secondary corridor that leads to a reinforced conference suite. Halfway down, another operative approaches quickly. Sir, he attempted badge override on level 4 access panel. Failed. He's moving again. Direction, Min-jae says. Up. The word lands hard. Up means toward them. Her pulse hammers in her ears. The fluorescent lights flicker once as a security protocol engages. Doors seal automatically behind them with muted mechanical thuds. Min-jae stops walking abruptly. The operatives around them form a tighter formation instinctively. He looks at her. You stay behind me, he says. There is no softness in it now. Only command. She nods. Her mouth is dry. From somewhere below, faintly, a metal door slams. Footsteps echo in a stairwell shaft, distant but rising. An operative speaks urgently into his calm. He bypassed level 5 seal. He forced the latch before full lock. How, Min-jae demands. Manual override. He knew the mechanism. Internal knowledge. Inside assistance. Another fracture. The air feels charged. Her mind flashes. Petrov's calm face. The way his eyes measured distance on the rooftop. He isn't panicking. He's calculating. Another update crackles through. He's not moving toward the exit, the voice says. Min-jae's gaze sharpens. Confirm direction. A brief pause. Then, he's heading back up. The words echo down the corridor. Up. Toward level 6. Toward them. And this time, he's armed. He's heading back up. The words hang in the corridor like smoke. Min-jae doesn't flinch. Positions, he says. Operatives fan out instantly. 2 at the stairwell door, 1 behind the corner near the conference suite, another covering the secondary corridor. She stands behind Min-jae as ordered, close enough to see the faint crease in the back of his suit jacket, close enough to hear his breathing. Slow, controlled. Below them, metal slams against concrete. Footsteps. Fast now. A sharp crack echoes up the stairwell shaft. Gunfire. The sound ricochets through the building's bones. She flinches despite herself. Level 5 breach. A voice snaps over comms. He fired at the lock. Another crack. Then shouting. Then a heavy thud. Silence. The silence is worse. Min-jae's eyes narrow slightly. Report, he says. Static. Then. Contact made. He's resisting. A scuffle. Grunts. A muffled cry. Her heart pounds so hard she feels it in her fingertips. Another gunshot. Closer. One of the operatives by the stairwell door stiffens, weapon raised, eyes locked on the handle. The metal door shudders violently from the other side. A body slams into it. The handle jerks once, twice. Then, it flies open. Two operatives drag Petrov through the doorway. His face is bloodied, shirt torn, one sleeve dark with sweat and something deeper. His eyes are wild but focused. He sees her immediately. Even now, recognition burns through the chaos. They force him to his knees in the center of the corridor. The handgun clatters away, kicked aside. He laughs once through blood. A low, breathless sound. Min-jae steps forward. The hallway lights cast hard shadows across Petrov's face. You should have kept running, Min-jae says quietly. Petrov spits blood onto the polished floor. I almost finished it, he replies in Russian. Her stomach twists. Min-jae's expression does not shift. You failed. Petrov's eyes slide toward her. She didn't. The words are meant for her. You think this ends because you warned him? Petrov says softly. An operative strikes him hard across the jaw. He collapses sideways, but keeps smiling faintly. Min-jae raises a hand. The operative still. Who authorized rotation changes? Min-jae asks. Petrov says nothing. Min-jae crouches slightly, so they are eye level. You were paid, he says. You were promised extraction. A flicker. Petrov's jaw tightens. You were promised protection, Min-jae continues. But you came back. Petrov's breathing grows heavier. You don't leave variables behind, he says finally. The word hangs there again. Variable. Min-jae glances briefly at her. Then back to Petrov. And who gave that instruction? Petrov hesitates. The corridor is silent except for his ragged breathing and the faint buzz of overhead lights. You think removing me changes the structure? Petrov says quietly. You are already compromised. Min-jae stands. Take him upstairs, he says. They drag Petrov down the corridor toward the secured conference suite. She follows, pulse still racing. Inside, the room feels smaller than before. Petrov is forced into a chair, wrists bound behind it. Blood drips slowly from a cut above his brow onto the light carpet. Min-jae stands at the head of the table again. He does not pace this time. He is still. If I bury this, he says, almost to himself, the investors never know. Markets remain stable. Rivals believe they remain unseen. Petrov watches him carefully. If I expose it, Min-jae continues, I invite retaliation. Petrov's faint smile returns. You invite war, he says. A silence beat. Min-jae turns to one of his operatives. Prepare the statement, he says. The operative freezes. Sir. Full disclosure of internal breach, Min-jae says calmly. Delay investor speech by 1 hour. Cite attempted internal betrayal. The words land like a detonation. Petrov's smile falters. You won't, he says. Min-jae doesn't look at him. Activate internal purge protocol, he continues. Suspend all rotational authorities pending review. Audit security leadership. The operative swallows. Yes, sir. Phones begin vibrating immediately around the room. Rapid. Relentless. Investors. Board members. Partners. Petrov leans forward against his restraints. You just made this public, he says. You think they won't answer? Min-jae's gaze shifts to him slowly. I expect them to. He turns to her briefly. There is no hesitation now. No weighing. Only decision. You wanted escalation, he says quietly. She feels the weight of it. I wanted it finished, she replies. He nods once. The operative hands him a tablet. A draft statement glows on the screen. Min-jae scans it. Then he adds a single line with deliberate precision. We will not tolerate internal compromise. He signs digitally. Sends it. Across the room, phones begin chiming almost instantly. Market alerts. News notifications. External analysts reacting to the sudden delay and mention of betrayal. Petrov's breathing changes. Faster now. You forced their hand, he says. Min-jae places the tablet down. Good. Outside the glass walls, the city remains bright and unaware. Inside the building, systems begin shifting. Access revoked. Credentials suspended. Internal communications flagged. War does not announce itself loudly at first. It moves through wires. Through messages. Through markets. An operative rushes in, face tight. Sir. Statement is live. Media outlets picked it up within seconds. How are partners reacting? Min-jae asks. Volatility in early trading indicators. But more importantly, he hesitates. Say it. We're seeing unusual traffic across known rival channels. Encrypted spikes. They're mobilizing. Petrov exhales slowly. Told you, he murmurs. The operative's phone vibrates again. His eyes widen slightly as he reads. Sir, he says carefully. There's more. Min Jae's gaze sharpens. External feed shows armed presence near one of our secondary warehouses. Within 10 minutes of the statement. 10 minutes. Faster than expected. Petrov's faint smile returns, blood on his teeth. They were waiting, he says softly. Min Jae stands perfectly still. The irreversible choice has been made. And the response is already unfolding. They were waiting. The words settle into the room like ash. No one responds immediately. Phones continue vibrating across the conference table. Alerts, market shifts, encrypted chatter. The building's internal system hums louder now. Security protocols cycling. Access logs updating in rapid succession. Min Jae does not look at Petrov again. Transfer him to basement holding, he says. Isolate. No outside contact. The operatives move without hesitation. Petrov is dragged to his feet. Blood stains the carpet in a dark arc where he sat. He doesn't struggle this time. As he passes her, he pauses just enough to turn his head. This doesn't protect you, he murmurs in Russian. An operative forces him forward. The door shuts. Silence returns, but it is different now. Thicker. Aftermath silence. Min Jae exhales slowly. Status, he says. An operative checks his tablet. Secondary warehouse secured. Armed presence dispersed before engagement. Likely a show of force. Casualties? None reported. Min Jae nods once. Maintain elevated security across all sites. Yes, sir. The operatives begin dispersing, their footsteps brisk but controlled. She remains standing near the edge of the table, her hands no longer trembling but heavy, as if the adrenaline has drained and left only weight behind. The fluorescent lights above cast sharp lines across the polished surface. Blood has already been wiped from the carpet. The room looks almost untouched. Almost. You should sit, Min Jae says quietly. She doesn't realize how tired she is until she lowers herself into a chair. The fabric of her uniform feels stiff against her skin. Her apron still smells faintly of citrus and rooftop sun, but underneath that is metal, gunpowder lingering in the air. Min Jae walks to the window again. Outside, the city continues its rhythm, traffic flowing, pedestrians crossing streets, unaware that a war has shifted tone inside this building. It will be louder now, he says. Yes. He turns to face her. For the first time since the rooftop, his expression softens, not weakness, but acknowledgement. You could have walked away after the glass, he says. She studies her hands. I almost did, she admits. A silence beat. But you didn't, he says. No. He nods once. I misjudged you, he says. The admission is quiet. She looks up at him. You saw a waitress, she says. I saw a risk. And now? He holds her gaze steadily. Now I see intent. The words settle differently. Not suspicion. Recognition. An operative steps back into the room. Sir, protective detail is in place for her. Temporary secure accommodation prepared on level 8. She blinks. For me. Min Jae doesn't look away from her. You are not returning home tonight, he says. Her chest tightens slightly. That won't stop them, she says. No, he agrees. But it narrows the field. The operative continues. Media response is escalating. Analysts are framing this as a power struggle within your organization. Min Jae's jaw tightens faintly. Let them speculate, he says. The operative hesitates. There is one more item. Min Jae's eyes sharpen. Speak. A statement was released from Volkov Holdings. The operative says carefully. They publicly deny involvement. Condemn the allegation of internal compromise. Petrov's network. And privately? Min Jae asks. The operative looks at his tablet again. They sent a direct encrypted message to your personal channel. The room stills. Min Jae extends his hand. The tablet is placed into it. She watches his eyes scan the screen. His expression does not change at first. Then something subtle shifts. Not surprise. Recognition. He reads it again, slower this time. The fluorescent light reflects faintly off the glass of the tablet. He does not hand it to anyone else. Do they claim innocence? She asks quietly. Yes, he says. A pause. And he looks at her now. There is no softness in his gaze anymore. Only clarity. They deny involvement, he says evenly. And congratulate me on decisive action. Her stomach tightens. That's not all, he adds. Silence stretches. Outside the window, a helicopter passes in the distance. its low thrum vibrating faintly through the glass. She stands slowly from her chair. "What does it say?" she asks. Min-jae holds the tablet at his side. His voice lowers just enough that only she hears the final line. "We'll finish what we started." The building feels different in the quiet. Not safer, just aware. Security presence doubles in the lobby below. New faces, sharper suits, tighter formation. Keycards are scanned twice. Conversations stop when she passes. Level 8 has been reassigned. Guards rotate every 2 hours now. Doors that once opened with a single code require biometric confirmation. Meetings happen behind thicker glass. Min-jae moves through it all without visible strain. He signs documents. He dismisses 2 senior security officers without raising his voice. He approves a partnership request that would have sat unanswered for months. He restructures without spectacle. No speeches. No announcements beyond what is necessary. The purge is clinical. Quiet. Precise. By evening, the air inside the building smells faintly of cleaning solvent and new paper. She stands alone in the elevator as it ascends. The mirrored walls reflect her face back at her. Tired, composed, changed in ways no one downstairs can measure. The doors open to the rooftop. Wind greets her immediately, cool and steady. The city stretches wide beneath the fading light, skyscrapers catching the last gold of sunset. No string quartet tonight. No champagne. No circle of executives pretending nothing fractures beneath their shoes. The rooftop is empty. She walks toward the edge slowly. The skyline looks the same as the first night. Sharp glass towers, blinking aircraft lights, traffic threading red and white through the streets below. But there is no music floating upward now. No crystal in anyone's hand. She rests her palms on the cool stone railing. The city smells like rain and distant exhaust. Footsteps approach behind her. Measured. Unhurried. She doesn't turn immediately. Min-jae stops beside her. Not behind. Not above. Beside. He is dressed the same as before. Dark suit. Crisp collar. But there is no glass between his fingers this time. His hands are empty. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The wind moves his jacket slightly. Lifts a strand of her hair across her cheek. "It's quieter," she says. "For now," he replies. Below them, headlights flicker through intersections like veins of light. Internal investigations are already extending outward. Names are being traced. Accounts reviewed. Alliances tested for weakness. The machine adjusts. Protection remains active around her. 2 guards stand near the rooftop access door, distant but present. She feels it. The invisible perimeter. "You can still leave," he says. His tone is even. No restriction. She watches a helicopter cross the horizon, its distant hum vibrating faintly in the air. "And go where?" she asks. "Away from this." He doesn't gesture to the building. He gestures to the city, to the network beneath it, to what it means to have stood where she stood and spoken when she spoke. She closes her eyes briefly. The memory of broken glass flashes in her mind, shards scattering across marble, music faltering mid-note, silence stretching as every head turned. That was the moment. This is the consequence. "I thought about it," she says. Leaving. Changing her name. Starting somewhere no one knows the sound of her voice. The wind presses gently against her back, as if testing her balance. "And?" he asks. She opens her eyes. The skyline doesn't look like an escape. It looks like a map. "I don't want to be protected from something I understand," she says quietly. A silence settles between them. Not heavy. Not fragile. Intentional. He studies her profile, her posture, steady now. No tremor in her hands. No hesitation in her stance. "You understand the risk," he says. "Yes." "It doesn't end here." "I know." The truth sits plainly between them. No drama. No warning disguised as advice. Somewhere in the city, people are adjusting to his decision. Recalculating. Watching. Retaliation does not disappear because a statement was issued. It reorganizes. Min-jae steps closer to the edge, matching her distance from the drop. The wind lifts around them, higher now as night deepens. "You stood alone before," he says. She remembers that. The rooftop full of executives. The weight of eyes. The feeling of being smaller than the room. She glances sideways at him. "I'm not alone now," she replies. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Below them, the city pulses, alive, restless, unaware of the precise lines being drawn in its shadow. The guards remain by the door. The skyline remains unbroken. No glass shatters. No music falters. Min-jae stands with his hands empty at his sides. She stands beside him, shoulders level, gaze forward. Wind moves across the rooftop and carries the faint echo of traffic upward. Neither of them steps back from the edge. And somewhere beyond the lights, unseen and already in motion, something shifts.